In this session, we're going to go through some of the ways of bringing data into iXBRL Mate from Excel, Word, and PDF. Let's start by opening up an example. In the examples folder, you'll find a demo file. You'll be able to work along with me. Let's just adjust that. Okay, this file, we're going to look at the different ways to bring stuff into iXBRL Mate. So let's start with one of the Excel options. If we want to bring in the client data, we have created a temporary file that is already linked to iXBRL Mate. Let's go and choose that Excel file, and it is this one called Client Input Form. And we open it and have a look. This file is partially completed with common defaults. You just need to fill in the rest of the orange blocks. So for example, we need the customer CIPC code, name of the company, who's responsible for compliance, etc., etc. Once all these details are completed, you can save the file, and then we'll be able to suck it into iXBRL Mate. Simply have that file selected and click on Extract from Excel file. And a few seconds later, all that data is in here. We found it very efficient to create pre-linked spreadsheets where you can just enter the data manually and then extract the data into the iXBRL. So we have a whole lot of these Excel files. Let's have a look here. We have for each of the, if it's IFRS full or IFRS for SMEs, we have 3 files, one with a complete AFS and 2 separate cash flows. These files contain all the common reports that need to come into iXBRL. So let's have a look at the full AFS. Now, as I've said, it's very efficient because these cells are pre-linked, that we just come in here and fill in the details. So really helps if you have 2 screens, but we're basically going to complete these fields according to the AFS that we have manually. I'm going to leave out the figures for the balance sheet because I'm going to show you a different way to bring that in. So let's run down and just start with this profit and loss. As you're typing in the figures, check that the totals agree to your AFS. You'll notice that I haven't entered cost of sales as a negative here because iXBRL wants it as a positive number. So these formulas take that all into consideration. That's another reason why it's a good idea to use these predefined spreadsheets. So as I'm going along, I keep checking that the totals agree. I'm happy with this. I'm going to do the statement of changes in equity as well. I'm happy with this. So I'm going to do the statement of changes in equity as well. And when I get to the end, we have a little checksum here to make sure that these are 0 and everything ties up. Okay, I'm ready to save this, and now I can extract that into iXBRL Mate. Let me just select the statement I want to see, and let's choose to extract. And all those figures have now come in. Let me have a look at the statement of changes in equity, and those figures have come in. Now remember, I said I'm going to show you a different way of doing the balance sheet. So let's go there. And this option we're going to look at under values, import values. So I'm just looking at how I can import the values into the balance sheet here from an Excel spreadsheet. Let's pull that spreadsheet across. So here's my statement of financial position in Excel. Now, a couple of things that I need to do first is these note numbers, this column, I just need to move to the end for doing my copy paste. And then I go and select the cells, all the cells that I want. Right click, copy, come back into iXBRL Mate and click paste. And now you'll see all those numbers, including the notes, and the names all came through on the right hand side. I'm now going to assign these or map these to the taxonomy items on the left hand side. So let's start with the very first item, which is non-current assets. So we find here the total for non-current assets, highlight it, double click on the right, and that total will now be put in as a sub item of non-current assets. Let's do the same for property, plant and equipment. Select, double click. Current assets, that's a total, So we're looking for total current assets. I'm going to run down to the bottom here, total current assets, double click. Trade and other receivables, found it, double click. Prepayments. Okay, which item should prepayments go to? Let's have a look. I think we're going to be choosing between other current financial assets and other current non-financial assets. Now that depends on what that prepayment actually is. And so let's do a quick Google search and see what is a non-financial asset. It's an asset. It's an asset with a physical value. Examples: real estate, equipment, machinery, whereas a financial asset has a value based on a contractual claim. Right, let's see what it says here. A financial asset, value derived from a contractual claim such as bank deposits, bonds and stocks. Okay, so using those definitions, you decide whether your prepayment is financial asset or non-financial asset, and then allocate it accordingly. Okay, let's carry on and do the rest of these. Total equity and liability, and we're done. Just those totals left. We can ignore those and right, now you'll see all the sub items are assigned to the taxonomy item. Okay, let's just select all from here, and we can see we've imported all our client data. We've imported our balance sheet, our income statement, statement of changes in equity. We've just got a couple of items left to do, which are the big text blocks in the financials. Okay, bringing in the text blocks is really easy if they're in Excel already. Otherwise, if it's in Word or PDF, we're first going to want to copy and paste from there into an Excel spreadsheet and then bring it in. So this one, we're looking for the director's report. So let's open our Excel spreadsheet. Here's the director's report. We just need to block it all or select it all. Right click, copy, back to iXBRL and paste. Let's adjust this column width so we can see it a bit better, and there it all is. Okay, let's do the next director's responsibility text block. Okay, let's do the next one, the director's responsibility text block. In this set of financials, that's also inside the director's report. So let's just select that part, copy and paste. Done. What you'll notice here is that under options I have this little tick box on that says hide the unused items. So all the ones that aren't being used or need to be used are hidden. So I've just reduced my selection on here and I can work through it much easier. So let's run down a bit further. Okay, we need something in here. Okay, it's a required item. So this is the accounting policies. Let's go grab that from the financials. So we found the accounting policies section. And just block, copy and paste, and we're done on that one. Auditor's report, and we're done. Just note that we don't bring in the images from the letterheads or the signatures or anything like that. It's only the text that is important. Looks like that's everything. So we are now ready to do the cash flow. Okay, the only thing left to do here now is the cash flow. So let's have a look and see what we do there. Again, the best way to do the cash flow is to work from one of our Excel spreadsheets. Choose the spreadsheet depending on whether you're using direct or indirect method. In our case, we'll be looking at 520 indirect. Unfortunately, the iXBRL taxonomy doesn't correspond with exactly the way most people do their cash flows. In that the taxonomy specifies that you must start with the after-tax profit. We usually start our cash flows with the before-tax profit. But in this case, you have to start with the after-tax. So you're invariably going to end up putting a different figure in here to what's actually showing in your financial statements. And then you're going to adjust with the income tax. So let me show you. Okay, so my statement of cash flow starts with the profit before tax of this 4605. The iXBRL wants us to start with the profit after tax. So let's just jump back to the income statement. we want to start with this figure. So to get here, we have to do this and add back that. Let's put those figures into our cash flow, and we just check that the total ties up. Okay, you can see that 4605, 606. And we do the same for the prior year. Okay, there are a few items like this with the cash flow where in your cash flow you may show all your cash outflows in brackets, whereas in this cash flow, the iXBRL one, in the taxonomy, they require those to be positive figures. So let's have a look. I'll complete the spreadsheet now. Just remember to check your totals as you're going along. Right, when that's completed, you can exit, save it, and extract from the Excel file. And a few seconds later, all those figures will appear. Right, let's do a check and make sure we've got all the data that we need. So we'll select all. Under the options, we make sure we have hide unused. We can run right up to the top, just press home. And now we can look. Anything in this column that's highlighted is either an error or a possible error. Okay, in this case, let's make that column a bit wider. And we can see it's the date of the independent review. Now, we didn't have an independent review on this, it was an audit, so we can ignore that one. So we can ignore the question marks if they're not applicable. Let's run down, there's another one. Oh, we didn't put in the notes. Let's do that quickly. Remember, the notes go in by a simple copy and paste. So let's go to the notes starting after the accounting policies. And we'll block the whole lot of notes. Copy and paste. Make this wider. That looks okay. Remember, the criteria here is that a human, that's one of the people who are. Remember, the criteria here is that someone who's looking at this text block can actually read it and make some sense of it. The formatting may not be perfect, but it is readable. Remember, someone in CIPC is going to actually be looking at this. So we're happy with that. Let's carry on down our list and see if there's anything else missing. Okay, this total liabilities. Okay, in the set of financials that I worked from, we didn't have a figure for total liabilities. We didn't split it up like that, but the taxonomy does require it. So we should put the total in here. It's probably easiest to just enter this figure manually. So this total liabilities would be the sum of the total current liabilities and the total non-current liabilities. In this particular example file, we didn't have any total non-current liabilities. So this figure will be the same as the total current liabilities. If I double click, Control C, I can double click there and paste. Okay, let's carry on down and see if there are any other problems. Okay, that all looks good. So now we're ready to actually create the iXBRL file and then validate it. So we click on the Create tab, create the iXBRL, and the file has been created. That's the link. If I click on it, it will open up in my browser, and that's what the file looks like. Okay, it's not an exact representation of your current set of financial statements. It's a different representation, but it has all the data in it and it's human readable. So if we run down, let's have a look at our balance sheet here, and you'll see there's the taxonomy item and there's our subtotal or a sub item that we put in there. Okay, if we look down at the income statement, we did that slightly differently in that we just imported the numbers, so we don't have any sub items. So you can choose which way works for you. Certainly if there are multiple items that make up one of the taxonomy items, then I would suggest doing it this way. So we'll have a look through, everything looks okay, all our notes are in there. Now let's send this file to the CIPC validation engine. So I click on validate, and send it through. Let's see what happens. It takes a few seconds and it comes back with warnings, errors, etc. Okay, generally speaking, warnings can be ignored. You're always going to have warnings in your file. But errors have to be dealt with. Okay, so this warning is telling us that the public interest score is not calculated correctly. So this warning is telling us the public interest score is not calculated properly. Now CIPC actually made a mistake on how they calculate the public interest score. So it's quite funny that they tell us we haven't done it right, when in fact they haven't done it right. So it's a warning, we can ignore it. Let's look at this error. It says that we need a footnote whenever there's a mandatory item that is reported with a nil value. Okay, so how do we know which item that is? If we look down here, it will tell us cash flows used in investing activities. Okay, my particular cash flow didn't have any investing activities, and so that's a 0. Now they require what they call a footnote or an explanation of why that is 0. So we have to deal with this error. The next item, it's the same story, but it's for the prior period. So the first one was about the current period and the second one was about the prior period. So let's go and deal with those two errors. So we're dealing with cash flows from investing activities. So let's go to our cash flow and let's go and have a look here. Okay, so cash flows from use in investing activities. Okay, in the current year we did have a figure, but the prior year is a 0. So we need to put in a footnote. And we can just say not applicable or no investing activities. It's almost like we're just confirming. Click on save. So we're confirming that that figure really is 0. Okay, let's go back and go create the file again. Okay, we need to recreate the file that gets submitted. It's no use just changing here. We need to first we need to change and then recreate. Then go to the validations again. We send that through again. There's no limit to how many times you can send this through. And we come back and that particular one is fixed. But there's another error here. So this is cash flows from used in financing activities. Okay, DP means the prior year. So let's have a look at that. So if we're going to go to financing activities, net cash flows, financing activities. Okay, also we just say not applicable and do the same thing again. Okay, remember all those items that came back with errors would stop this file from being accepted by CIPC. Warnings are fine, but errors will stop the file. So let's look. There's a warning, public interest score. There's a warning. Okay, this one's telling me now the other comprehensive income should be reported for the current period, if applicable. Okay, in our case here we didn't have any other comprehensive income, so there's nothing to report. So this is a warning that we can ignore. Okay, let's look at the other tab for iXBRL errors. Now these are usually related to formulas. So this first one that we've come up with, it's telling us in the prior period for the statement 610, that's our statement of changes in equity, it looks like I have a typing mistake because it's telling me that this total for changes in equity doesn't agree to this total of the items that make up the changes in equity. Okay, let's go and have a look at that one. Changes in equity. The total we're looking at is this figure. And look, I just left out the 0. So I can just go and fix that. And that problem should be solved. Let's look at the next item. Okay, this one's telling me there's a problem in statement 510, statement of cash flows direct method. Okay, let's have a look. 510. No, we're not using 510. We're using 520. Okay, their taxonomy checks everything. It even checks based on statements that we're not submitting. So it's just a warning. It's just a frowny face. If we're not submitting that statement, all we can do is ignore the warning. And it doesn't matter. Look at the next item. It's also about 510. This one's about 320. Are we doing 320? Let's have a look. 320? No, we're not doing 320. We're using 310. So again, we can ignore that error. Next one is also about 320. So we can ignore that error. This happens all the time. You can expect these warnings and you don't need to be concerned about them. Just go through the list, make sure that if you can fix it, you do fix it if you're submitting those statements. Right, so now this file, if we look on errors, we've only got warnings. We would now be able to submit this to CIPC. And if you want to do that, there's a button here which will just take you straight to the CIPC eServices website, and you can go and do your submissions. So the question is, what if you have your financials only in PDF or in Word? Best thing to do there is to copy paste from your PDFs or from your Word documents into Excel first. With the text blocks, you can usually do a copy paste straight into iXBRL Mate, but it is advisable to do it through Excel first. So copy them and paste them into Excel. Make sure that it all looks right and looks nice, that all the tables line up and you're happy with it, and then do the copy paste from Excel into here. Please feel free to email us. You'll find our contact details right there. Please feel free to get hold of us. If you look on the iXBRL Mate launcher under the contacts button, okay, you'll find all our contact details here. Get hold of me. We can team view. We can help you sort out all the problems. Thanks for your time. Enjoy iXBRL Mate.